Have you ever felt lost in your own life? What if I told you there's a way to find your true path? Join us at Lumara Life and unlock the secrets to living fully. I can't tell you how amazed I was to meet Neil Gehani, the founder of Lumara. This guy is on a mission to change lives by making access to ethical psychedelic treatment safer and easier. Neil's journey as a neurodivergent individual himself fuels his passion. With over 20 years in Silicon Valley, he understands what it takes to build something incredible. It took him 3 years to find the help he needed, and now he's dedicated to ensuring others don't face the same struggle. But how did he come up with such a smart solution? Stick around to find out. So in today's podcast, we'll dive deeper into Neil's personal story, learn about his vision for Lumara, and discover how he's making psychedelic treatments accessible and ethical for everyone. Curious? Let's jump right in. So Neil founded Lumara to help people use psychedelics for better mental health, just like we exercise for our bodies. He made a unique safety system to match seekers with trusted guides. Neil emphasizes clear ethics without any conflict of interest, which means people can trust the facilitators. He's rapidly growing by focusing on educational outreach and creating a community that respects ancient practices. By breaking stigma around mental health, he's helping others live happier lives. Exciting stuff, right? Let's get into it. Welcome to the Founders Show, where we share amazing stories of startups and visionaries like you. Today, we're super excited to have Neil Gehani with us. At Founders Show, we connect, inspire, and help you grow your dreams. So let's dive in and get started. Hi, Neil. This is Vats from the Founders Show. Thanks for joining this podcast, and I'm so glad to have you here with me. How are you doing today?
I'm doing awesome. Thank you for asking.
That's great to hear, Neil. Let's dive right in. Can you tell me the name of your startup and the big problem you're aiming to solve?
Yeah, so the startup is called Lumara. The website is lumara.life. The main problem we're trying to solve is that in the mental health space, particularly therapeutic use of psychedelics for improving proactive mental health, just like you use physical exercise to improve your physical health. Now we can use these ancient medicines for improving your cognitive health.
That's fascinating, Neil. So Lumara is essentially bridging the gap between ancient practices and modern mental health care. What inspired you to focus on psychedelics for proactive mental health? Was there a personal or professional experience that sparked this journey?
Yeah, so it's more my personal dealing with my own trauma from my past. My sister also suffers through depression, and the traditional pharmaceutical SSRI option was actually quite detrimental to her, actually made problems worse. And so now these ancient medicines don't have the side effects of the traditional pharma medicines, and they're used therapeutically. And when they're used therapeutically, and I went the other route, I didn't go the pharmaceutical route. I decided to go through the psychedelic medicine route with a trained and trained therapist working in a non-clinical setting, and that's really what helped me overcome my own trauma and live now what I call a beautifully blissful life, despite all the challenges, because I suffer from ADHD. I don't call them a disorder, I call them a condition, because lots of people are living with these conditions. So you can actually live a very beautiful life with these conditions if you think about using psychedelics proactively. And that's what I tried to do. I didn't need a diagnosis. I didn't go to a doctor to get one. And you don't, for the 8+ billion people living on this planet, majority of them, 80% of them, can access these medicines safely, especially if you're over the age of 26, where your prefrontal cortex is fully developed.
Wow, Neil, that's such a powerful and personal story. It's inspiring how you turned your own challenges and your sister's experience into a mission to help others. I love how you're reframing conditions like ADHD and focusing on proactive mental health. How does Lumara ensure that people access these medicines safely and in a way that's effective for their mental well-being?
Yeah, this is what's unique. We created what's called a ethical reputation model, which I was asked to present at Oxford University last year, and I also wrote about it. I was part of the Hope Consensus Statement, which is a joint statement between Johns Hopkins and Oxford University. And now I've taken that model and created a framework for that model and implemented that model that now we use in Lumara to actually match people who are seeking care with ethical and reputable facilitators and guides, whether they're working underground or above ground. There's many jurisdictions in the world that these medicines are now decriminalized or getting legalized, and the world is changing very fast. And so, but there's also a lot of people that just, hanging up a shingle and saying that they're a shaman, you don't really know who they are. They're not very ethical. So what we do is to ensure that we match people based on their own needs and their own criteria. And we also match them to the top 3 ethical and reputable people in their own jurisdictions, regardless of where they live or where they want to travel to.
That's incredible, Neil. Your ethical reputation model sounds like a game changer, especially in such a rapidly evolving and sensitive space. It's great that you're prioritizing safety and trust while connecting people with the right facilitators. How do you ensure the facilitators meet your ethical standards? Is there a vetting process or specific criteria they must fulfill?
Yeah, so we look at several criteria. We decide on the criteria ourselves. One of the things that makes us uniquely different is that because we are not a provider ourselves, we don't have any kind of provider conflict of interest, which is why our system is trusted by those seeking care. Almost every other directory service or provider professional organizations has a built-in conflict of interest. They may be very well-meaning, but the conflict of interest means that they're trying to recruit patients and clients to themselves. And we don't have that. We chose not to do that because even my psychologist friends told me that I could have been a facilitator myself, but I chose not to do that because I did not want to have this inherent conflict of interest. So we use objective criteria. We look at ethics that are observable and measurable, and this is what's uniquely different about us. Most of the ethics guidelines that people adhere to, we don't decide what these ethical guidelines are. Anybody can choose any ethical guidelines, but we do evaluate the ethical guidelines to see how observable and how measurable they actually are and how auditable they are. And we use that criteria and along with the weighting system to give each provider, whether they're in a network or not in a network, we give them a reputation score. And that score is something that we assign to every single provider, whether they are creators of ethical guidelines, whether they're providing training, and whether they include ethics in their training, for example, and which provider and how they conduct their business. So one of the key things that we look at is that if you're going to be unethical in business, can you really be ethical in care? And so we look at how their business practices also align with their ethical practices in care.
That's such a thoughtful and rigorous approach, Neil. I love how you've removed conflicts of interest and built a system that's truly objective and transparent. It's clear you're setting a high standard for ethics in this space. How has the response been so far from both facilitators and those seeking care? Are people embracing this model?
Yeah, so we right now have about, let's say, I think about 85 or 90 or so seekers on our network, and we have about 115 or 20 facilitators in our network. We need to increase that, obviously, to triple that number because our goal is to have three facilitator options for every seeker in every jurisdiction where there's legally and decriminally available. So that's our goal. So we need to increase the number of facilitators. So we've interviewed a lot of them. We've talked to a lot of them. We onboarded a lot of them. And most of them most of facilitators are very, very good. They're very good at what they do. And they want their industry to be very ethical and operate very ethically. They have a huge respect and reverence for the indigenous community where these ancient medicines have been practiced for millennia. And, Western medicine is just coming to the realization of this. So we need to respect that. And we actually take that as one of the criteria. Transparency is another one that we put a very high weight to. So if somebody's not transparent with us, that has a huge consequence on the reputation system. So we try to look at these things to make sure that people are, practicing in a very ethical and very safe way and not causing harm or further re-traumatizing the very people we're trying to help.
It's amazing how much thought and care you've put into building this network, Neil. It's clear you're not just creating a platform, but fostering a community rooted in respect, safety, and transparency. I love that you're honoring indigenous traditions while ensuring modern ethical standards. What's been the biggest challenge so far in scaling this network and achieving your goal of 3 facilitators per seeker?
Yeah, the biggest thing is like awareness. People don't know we exist. So far, it's all been word of mouth. I haven't done really any marketing or advertising of any kind. We're trying to be very careful about how we market. We don't want to target, anyone under the age of 21, and we particularly even advise people, even if they're over 21, even though they can legally access it in certain jurisdictions, we still advise people to, wait until they're 26, because that's when your prefrontal cortex is fully developed. But, we think the option for people who are 21 and over, psychedelics is a good option for them to use. We don't think it's a panacea. We don't think it's something that's somehow going to fix you. We don't look at it as that way. People live with their mental health conditions forever. We think about this as sort of longevity-based rather than frequency-based. So we think that when somebody accesses these medicines in a respectful and reverent way and does it with intention, does it with purpose, and then integrates those experiences into their lives, they can live absolutely beautiful lives no matter what challenges come through their life, whether it's relationship challenges, whether it's business challenges or work-related challenges. People are going to have these things. People live with all kinds of medical conditions, and we want to make sure that they have a beautiful, blissful life regardless of what their conditions are, because I'm living that life right now. And I think it's staying with the medicine. You don't need to use it every day. It's not like a pharma model where you take a pill every day or something like that. And it's a non-addictive, especially the classic psychedelics are non-addictive substances. So you don't have this craving where you need to take something every day. Where the pharma model is designed for you to be able to take a pill every day. And that doesn't fix the problem. It just sort of numbs the symptoms. It doesn't get to the root causes of why you feel the way you feel. Whereas classic psychedelics helps you get at the root cause, especially if you do it with respect, especially if you go to indigenous practitioners who've been doing this for a long time, especially you go to trained and experienced people. A bunch of degrees is not going to help you without the experiential knowledge. And it's the experiential knowledge that's more important than a bunch of certifications and degrees.
That's such a refreshing perspective, Neil. I love how Lumara is focused on intentionality, longevity, and truly addressing root causes rather than just masking symptoms. It's clear you're building something deeply meaningful. With awareness being your biggest challenge, do you have plans to scale your outreach while maintaining the integrity and careful approach you've described?
Yes, we are now looking at options of how we can get the messaging out to people to let people know we exist. We can only practice in certain jurisdictions, so we can practice in, for example, in the U.S., in Colorado and Oregon and 20 or 23 some odd other jurisdictions, counties where psychedelics are decriminalized. And there's obviously other countries in the world, like most Latin American countries, Mexico, Jamaica, Peru, Ecuador, Brazil, Colombia, as well as some European locations like Netherlands, Spain, Portugal, and Australia now as well, where some of these medicines have been legalized and decriminalized. So we can operate in all those jurisdictions. So we have to be very methodical about how we do our outreach in those specific jurisdictions, while we need to get the word across to everyone so that if they do travel to these jurisdictions where they can access these medicines safely and legally and ethically, then we are that platform that enables to match them to the right facilitator for them the first time. So the goal is to build trust even before first contact. Because a facilitator or a guide, they're trained to be super compassionate. They're super compassionate, but that may not be the right person for you. So we want to make sure that we're matching you up with the very with the first time with the right person for you, so you have the best possible experience and the safe and ethical experience for yourself.
That's a smart and thoughtful approach, Neil. It's great that you're focusing on targeted outreach in jurisdictions where it's legal while also educating people globally about safe and ethical access. Matching seekers with the right facilitator the first time is such a critical piece. It shows how much you value trust and positive outcomes. As you expand, do you see partnerships or collaborations playing a role in scaling your impact?
Yes, we think that we could partner with many, directory-based provider organizations that have a list of facilitators. For example, a directory of ketamine clinics, which can operate very legally in the entire United States and most of the world. We can operate with a whole bunch of facilitator networks, for example. They can be on our platform and we can integrate with them through APIs, for example. So there's many ways for us to partner with many wonderful provider-based organizations, and that's what we hope to do.
That's a fantastic strategy, Neil. Partnering with established networks and integrating through APIs could really amplify your reach while maintaining your focus on ethics and safety. It sounds like a win-win for everyone involved. What's the next big milestone you're aiming for with Lumara?
I think the next big milestone for us is just improve our marketing and getting the word out. So I think we want to focus on our awareness campaign and how we get that out. We're also focusing on our branding, and so we make sure that the messaging is clear so people can understand us and understand what we do and how we do it.
That's a solid next step, Neil. Clear messaging and a strong awareness campaign will definitely help more people discover Lumara and understand its value. As you work on branding, what's the core message or feeling you want people to associate with Lumara?
And we want them to feel like the mental health is not something that we have to be ashamed of. It's part of how I live my life. And it's part of our lives. Every problem that happens in our life, it's normal, and ups and downs in our lives are very normal, and we don't have to be stigmatized by them. As an Indian, particularly in Asian cultures, it's even more stigmatizing. So we want to help change that stigma associated with the largest population in the world. But we also make that available to everyone so they can live a beautifully blissful life despite any condition that they may have, and do it safely and ethically in a non-clinical setting if they choose. We think both medicalization models and non-clinical decriminalization models can coexist seamlessly in this world.
That's such a beautiful and empowering message, Neil. Normalizing mental health challenges and breaking the stigma, especially in cultures where it's deeply ingrained, is so impactful. I love how Lumara is creating a space where people can embrace their mental health journey with dignity and choice. Before we wrap up, what's one piece of advice you'd give to someone considering psychedelics for proactive mental health?
I think the main thing is to get educated on it. Learn as much as you can. Now you can use even AI to understand and gain knowledge on the safety and the efficacy and the non-addictiveness of psychedelics. These people should understand that the alcohol and other legal substances are more harm causing than these non-addictive classic psychedelics. And I mean classic psychedelics. These are plant-based substances that have been used in indigenous cultures, in Asian cultures going back millennia. So people need to tap into their own cultures, learn about them. These things are not quote unquote drugs. These are medicines, and these are medicines that really help you to live a beautifully blissful life.
That's such thoughtful advice, Neil. Education is key, and reframing psychedelics as ancient medicines rather than drugs is so important. Thank you for sharing your journey, insights, and the incredible work you're doing with Lumara. It's been an inspiring conversation. Wishing you all the best as you continue to break barriers and help people live beautifully blissful lives. Neil, it's been such a pleasure speaking with you. Thank you for sharing your story and the amazing work you're doing with Lumara. Wishing you all the best on your journey. Take care.
Thank you.
Thanks again, Neil. Take care and have a great day. Thanks for tuning into the Founder Show. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to like and subscribe for more awesome stories. And hey, if you're a startup founder with a great story to share, we want to hear from you. Head over to founder.show and sign up to be featured on our podcast. Keep chasing your dreams and see you next time.